Let's talk about love and marriage, the way that God intended. Life experience, here we share it. The No Fruit Podcast. Tune in from any platform. No Fruit Podcast. We'll help your spirit transform.
I thank y'all very much for tuning in to the No Fruit Podcast. We have a special guest today who is a pioneering coach who uniquely integrates cutting-edge neuroscience, psychology, and practical strategies to help people unlock their true potential, overcome challenges, achieve goals, and live a deeply balanced, purpose-driven life. He is the host of the Let Yourself Off the Hook podcast and coaching program, explaining how to achieve success without the struggle. He is also an experienced marriage and relationships coach, host of the Growing in Love for Life podcast, author of 2 books and a 20-volume Growing in Love for Life series of short books on marriage. He is also the creator of 4 relationships coaching programs. Originally from New Zealand, he has recently completed an 8-year adventure sailing through 15 countries in Europe on his own yacht. He is now on his next adventure traveling through Europe by motorhome, and I'm pretty sure that has to be a big difference, just motor travel and opportunities and things like that. But we will see how this gentleman adapts to that. So I thank y'all very much for listening to us. We are introducing to you Liam. Liam, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Hello there. Thank you very much for having me.
Sure, no problem. So, Liam, what is it like to transition from the yacht to the motorhome?
Well, it's not a real difference in one way because it's just a different form of travel. We just travel around and we don't stay in one place for very long. So it's the same sort of thing about exploring new places all the time and, making one of those things that I think most people find difficult, which is to make a decision on what you're going to do every day. It's if you like, a great honor and a privilege to be able to do that, but it carries with it a lot of uncertainty. Because you're thinking, well, do we want to stay here or do we want to go somewhere else? Where do we want to go? We're not really on any set agenda. So it has its challenges, but the main challenge being deciding what we want to do every day.
Nice.
But I guess many people would see that as a privilege.
That allows for a lot of communication, I guess, and trying to decide where to go. So talk to us a little bit about, your relationship and how does one communicate well and make those types of decisions on a daily basis? Because if each day you have to come up with a decision and agree, I guess, on where to go.
Yeah, well, we're in a bit of a unique situation, I suppose, because we literally spend 24 hours a day together. My partner, we've been together for 15 years now. And I think one of the important things that defines a relationship, one that works, that you really have to be honest with yourself about is how aligned are you in your values and your vision for your life? Because both my partner and I had been with people before, been married to people before, who after a while it turns out you realize they're not aligned with what you really want to do. So for instance, we both love travel. We both love adventure. We both love uncertainty. We don't like being in one place. And we work together really well as well because all of my coaching work, you mentioned what I've done, well, she's very much a complement to me. I'm the ideas and the information, and she helps me put it all, she literally puts it all together into books and websites and courses and helps me get it out there. So I think that alignment is so important. And when you have that, that's 90% of the battle. The rest of it's just little details. So in answer to your question, how do you make decisions together? Well, it's a lot easier when you both sort of want the same things. And we have little if you like, signals to each other or little ways of doing things. One is, because we're constantly traveling, and whether it's on a boat or in a motorhome, you end up in a place that you've never been to before. And you don't know what it's like. You can read in the books, there's lots of guides to sailing places and motorhome places, and you can read about it and you can decide, well, it's going to go there. It looks like a nice place. But you might not like it. You might get there and there might be noisy or there's a party going on. That doesn't happen very often, but something about it might not be to your liking, or the weather might not quite seem right if you're on a yacht.
Mm-hmm.
And we have this rule: if one of us isn't happy about something, we instantly move. Doesn't matter what the other person thinks. And invariably, it turns out to be the right thing. So, and often it's just a feeling, and we've done this for many years. Even in restaurants, we've been into a restaurant and thought, this doesn't feel right. And we've got up and left and gone somewhere else. So I think that's really important. When you're really connected with someone who shares your alignment and your values and your way of thinking, or your way of wanting to interact with the world, if you like, you can have this feeling communication and just say, look, this doesn't feel right to me. Okay, we'll move. So that's basically how we do it.
That's funny. You said you just brought back a memory that Maurice and I had sat down at this restaurant, and they gave us, your complimentary water, and the menus. We're just looking, and we looked around, and we're just like, something just doesn't feel right. I don't know that I want to eat here. So we did. We got up, we left a tip, and we walked right out, and they were just very apologetic walking out. They were like, "Are you sure? Is anything wrong?" We're like, "No, it's just us. Sorry, So, and we just moved right along. So I can understand exactly what you're saying, that, just being on the same wavelength and having some of the same goals and just moving forward. So what happens if those things don't happen? Like what happens if, we're not always, because it's not going to happen every day. We're not always going to be together and on the same page. So what happens when we're not on the same page?
I don't know what happens. I can't recall. Well, you work stuff out. I think one of the things I really help people with in their relationship, and I've been doing relationship and marriage coaching for many years now, and really helping people who've got big problems. Primarily, people come to me because they're in a crisis. Maybe their husband or wife literally wants a divorce, or they're having an affair with somebody else that they've just found out about. But they really want to do something, and it's a bit sad in a way that we often only want to do something, or we're prepared to do something, or to make a big change in what we do when we're faced with a crisis. But essentially what I say to people is, what you've got to do is, the whole point about communication, the whole point about disagreements, if you like, and about getting agreement with your spouse, or with anyone else, is you have to get them to want to communicate with you. That's really the secret. It's not anything to do with any fancy techniques, or using the right words, texting the right words, or saying things in the right way. People get hung up on all that sort of thing. But if you think back to when you guys got together first, and certainly when I think back to when I did, and this is what an exercise I take people through, and say, when they come to me for help, and I say, think back to when you first got together. What were you doing then? Were you focusing on the problems? Were you trying to get your point of view across and disregard their point of view? Were you trying to get what you wanted and not what they wanted? You weren't like that at all. You were just enjoying being there. You wanted them to be happy.
Right.
You weren't focused on any problems. You were saying, wow, this person is amazing. How can I spend more time with this person? How can I learn about this person? How can we do fun things together? And if something came along that maybe you were miscommunicating about, or you had a misunderstanding, you'd go, oh, well, that's interesting. I didn't realize that. Okay, well, maybe I've learned from that. That's great. Right, now let's get back on and have fun and get back to the real world of why we're here, which is to enjoy each other's company and to realize that we're with someone who's amazing. So that's really the key to, I think, in a relationship, is to keep remembering that's why you're there. And that's the feeling that you need to keep alive, rather than too many people, most people, when they start, life comes along, and the children come along, the financial responsibilities, the career, all these other things, other family pressures, they all come along, and they knock us off track from the main thing, which is we just want to be in this relationship to do all the things that make us feel good and that make the other person feel good. We don't want to focus on problems. We don't want to focus on things that make it worse, because, one of the things is whatever you focus on grows. And if you're going to go along to counseling and sit there and talk about your problems and what's wrong, what's going to happen? You're going to get more problems. It's only going to make things worse. It doesn't make things better. So I think when you realize that we want to communicate with each other, if there's a misunderstanding, if they say something to you that you don't understand, if you're in the space of wanting to communicate, you say to them, I don't quite understand what you said. Can you explain it again? And you listen and you say, is that what you meant? Is this what you meant? Wasn't what you meant? Okay. And you talk about it, but in a way that you really want to understand. And that's a big difference to, this is what I think, and you're not getting it. And I'm going to keep forcing you to try and see it, and it makes me resentful that you're not getting it. That doesn't really work. And I'm sure that people listening or watching can probably take that on board and realize that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
So first I want to say, Liam, I mean, when we got together, it was a piece of cake. I mean, it was, there's nothing else to say, and it's just been like that for the last 27, how long we been together? 27 years. So it's okay with us. We don't have those issues. But I do have a question though, Liam. We're talking about communication, and I did not grow up. I'm gonna give you an example. I didn't grow up in a household where the parents communicated very well. The neighborhood didn't communicate very well. Even my teachers were frustrated in school. So I did not have the perfect example of what communication looks like. And now I'm taking that into the relationship. So how do I start to build on those communication skills? Not to be an expert in it, but just to build upon, just to be a little bit better. So what would you suggest for me to do?
Well, I can answer that with a question, because I was like you. I grew up in a very similar environment to what it sounds like you grew up in as well, where even like children, we weren't entitled to have an opinion. We were,
Right.
You were a child. How dare you think that you're significant,
Right.
and you just keep quiet, and we were almost, well, certainly psychologically, if you like, it wasn't pleasant to share how you felt, because that wasn't what children did. So we've all got these issues from our childhood that we can point to as to why we're not good at something. But again, I just make this point that what do? You think, well, how can I just feel good? Because when you feel good and when you focus on what's good in a relationship, then you naturally are at ease. When we know this when we're around people who feel good about themselves. They're natural communicators. They're not manipulators. They're not using any fancy language. You like to be around someone who feels good about themselves. And some of the things you can... So actually, this is really at the core of what I teach, is it's all about feelings. A relationship is all about feelings. It's about feeling good. It's not about fixing what's wrong or trying to fix what's wrong, thinking that that's going to make you feel good. It's by focusing on what makes you feel good. So instead of having these expectations about, I'm not a good communicator, just focus on feeling good. And there are lots of things you can do in a relationship. Little things that, funnily enough, again, when people go off track in their relationship, they stop doing these things. Sometimes people come to me and they say, I'm having all these problems in my marriage and we're fighting all the time and we're just not on the same page as each other. And I say to them, when was the last time you smiled at your wife? Not in any cheesy way, but you just smile at them.
Right.
And when was the last time you shared a joke with them or a funny story? Or you looked at something and say, hey, look at that, isn't that funny? You used to do when you walked down the street. When was the last time you did that? When was the last time you just talked about something interesting that you found interesting? When was the last time you said to them, hey, I just want you to know you're an amazing person? And said it with feeling, not just, because you heard some weird guy on the internet tell you that's what you should do. But, when was last... And people say, I know this sounds so basic, but literally some people say to me, I can't remember when I last did any of those things. But they're what you do when you're in a good relationship. And you need to get back into these habits of focus. Even if things aren't going so well in your relationship and you're saying, oh, we're not communicating well, that's not actually true. You do communicate sometimes. What are you grateful for in your life? What are you grateful for about this person, about this relationship? You've got a lot to be grateful for. There are people out there who don't have a relationship or have got a much more miserable one where they're much less happy than you. So focus on the good things and let all the stuff of like communication, they're all going to happen naturally. You don't need to figure out, as I say, become some orator of giving speeches and using the right mindset. It all comes from feelings. It all comes from the heart. And when you do that, you're going to say the right things. You're going to do the right things.
Right.
Because that's what you did when you first got together. When your heart was in the right place, you did all the right things. If, as I say, if you had a little misunderstanding, hey, or a mistake, hey, it's not a big deal. Let's get back to what we're here for,
Right.
which is to enjoy each other.
Well, so I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kyle.
No, good.
So I was going to say that sometimes something that you mentioned about going back to the beginning, why you might have gotten together, what attracted you, and things like that. And again, we've been together for 27 years, so we both, a lot of things have changed. Gray hair. I didn't have all that, all those type of things, and change of weight, whatever it might have been. And sometimes we lose track because we get caught up in all those first physical things, and then as you also mentioned about even just some of the conversations where we're interested in, not interested in, changes because we forget that each one of us are growing individually and maybe not always respecting that. That, hey, I don't work in the same place that you work. I didn't go to school when you went to school. Those type of things, all these little intricate parts that makes us who we are as individuals, and sometimes we don't respect that. So how do we get to that point of just respecting that person as an individual? Because as you also talked about being that individual being happy. So how do we even respect that space for that individual along with our own happiness?
Well, I think the key thing is to remember what is it that you actually fell in love with about the person. And the reality is, if you really think about it, it's not about how they look or looked. It's not about, whether they've got grey hairs or not, or their weight or their whatever it is. It's about the essence of who they are, their personality, the way they make their energy. And this is it's a little bit hard to describe, but I'm sure when people think about it, you know what I'm talking about. It's a knowingness about this person is such a good person. They have a good soul. We might say these things. So that's the essence, and that's what really love is a connection on the level of essence, not the outside superficial things. Because as you say, those things change, and the relationships that last and that they are the ones where they're connected on this essence level. So I think what you can do is say to yourself, what is the essence of the person that I'm married to, the person that I love? What is their soul like? What are the qualities that they have as a person that I really admire, that really make me feel good, and to think they're such a good person? And it could be they're such a loving person, or they're so honest, or they're so caring, or they're so optimistic, they love adventure and fun. Because, as I say, that's really what you fell in love with. That's what you really were attracted to in the beginning. And that's what you want to carry on focusing on. And when you do, everything else sort of falls into place, because you literally see that person for who they are. And you've been together for 27 years. You'll know what I'm talking about. That
Right.
You see each other beyond the physical. I mean, you probably still... I'm not saying physical isn't important.
Right.
but I'm sure you see beyond, and you also see beyond what you're doing and what's going on in your life. You just see this person that that's what you're connected to. So that's the thing to really sometimes stop, and it's a really healthy and good thing to do, is just little exercises like say to each other, what do I want to tell you, or tell each other what I really love about you. Have a little exercise. And another one is, you can do this. So you sit down and you say, I want to tell you what I really love about you, what I think's amazing about you, what's great about you, what's really what I see who you are. That's a great exercise in itself. It's not saying, well, hey, let's sit down and talk about what's wrong with our relationship.
Right.
It's the opposite.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh,
Yeah,
most definitely.
totally does. I think, as you said earlier, that sometimes when life grows, the kids come in and the work comes in and all these other things that pull on us away from our marriage relationship or our partnership that we have. And we have relationships with our family members, and we have relationships with outsiders at workplace. But it's key, from what I'm hearing you say, is that you get back to your roots. No pun intended for the No Fruit podcast, but get back to your roots and figure out what it is that drew you two together. And I think Maurice and I have gone through that with starting to date each other again. It allowed us to sit down and have some of those conversations that you just alluded to, and just look at one another and not look at being parents or being caregivers for our parents, or even whatever's going on at work, but just looking at who we are as people is really, really great. So, that's one tip I would say, I could give is that, date your spouse or date your, person again. And I think what you and your partner are doing, traveling around the world, allows you to have probably dates all the time with the beautiful landscape you have back there. So what other tips do you have for those that are either new in relationships, because we have a lot of listeners that are brand new in relationships, and then we have some that are senior relationships like Maurice and I. So what advice would you give to those two different, and is it something that's different for someone that's new in a relationship versus someone that's been in a relationship for a while?
Well, I guess there are a lot of differences. One is when you're new in a relationship, you've got all these new things going on. You don't know the person very well, and you're excited to find out about them, and also excited to share things with them. And sometimes, one of the sad things, if you like, is people lose that, and that's when their relationship starts to wane or get into trouble. I suppose I'm really lucky because we're having a new adventure every day.
Right.
So that's one way we can keep things fresh and alive. But I think that's a really important thing, no matter where you are in your relationship, is to say, people say to me, we've been married 30 years and we know each other so well, we've got nothing to talk about, which is, when you think about it, a bit of a weird thing to say, because you might know the person really well, but there's a world out there of incredible things going on. Why can't you talk about? There's a million things you can talk about, all the exciting things that are going on in the world. I'm not talking about what's on the news, and all the politics and all of the war and all this propaganda and whatever it is that's rocking around that's designed to make you feel bad. I'm talking about all the amazing things that are going on in the world, all the technological developments in every area. And if you're interested in a particular, maybe you've got a hobby or an interest that you share together, which is really important if you have that, whether it be travel or even just something you're both interested in, you can talk about that. You can talk about endless stuff. I mean, my partner and I, we're together 24 hours a day. We still find a ton of things to talk about. So that's really important, no matter where you are in your relationship, is to realize you can keep the freshness. One aspect of it is going to wear off. You are going to get to know this person. You're going to get to know their bad habits and the things that irritate you, but you're also going to be able to keep the good habits or the good behaviors. You can keep them alive, which is being interesting, being interested, focus on what's good about going on in the world, have great conversations with each other with new ideas. It's amazing what you can learn about things when you have a deep relationship with someone else, because you're on the same, you understand so much together. When you expand your knowledge, you're already coming from a deep place. It's not like you have to start at the beginning with a subject. Does that make sense? You
Almost
see what I'm saying here?
Yes.
So you've got this opportunity to really expand your own knowledge, your own awareness, your own experience of life, because you're with somebody else who's sharing that with you and who is supporting you in that. So keep the conversation going, keep the fun going, keep the focus on what's really good about this world. Another exercise that my partner and I often do, wake up in the morning and we say, or last thing at night, but usually in the morning, because she goes to sleep a bit earlier than I do at night. And that is, what are we really grateful for in our life? And so many times during the day, we say to each other, we're so lucky. A lot of people say to us, you're so lucky because here you are sailing around the world doing whatever you want, or you're on a motorhome, or, yes, we are lucky on one level, but we acknowledge that we're living our dream, we're living our life, but everyone's got so much to be grateful for. And if you just got into that little habit of saying to each other, wow, we're so lucky, aren't we? That's going to transform your life and your relationship as well.
Wow, Liam. You said a mouthful, Liam. I think there's a lot of things that we can take from what you're stating. Liam, based off of time, and our time is short, but there's something that some of us have not understood and we don't practice every day, which is that space of being grateful. Just to be alive. Number two, to say, hey, I'm grateful for this individual. And I need someone to talk me through that process to understand how to be grateful, how to even communicate it in a very, in a manner that not only I understand, I feel good about expressing it, but that person feels good as well, and not concentrate on the negative. So, Liam, how can I reach out to you? So, because I need someone to talk to help me through this process. So, how can they reach out and find you?
How can people find me?
Yes.
Well, okay. Well, really, the simplest way is just to go to my website, liamnaden.com. That's just my name, LIAMNADEN. And actually, while we're talking about that, many people who come to me, and maybe most people, what they really need in their relationship, if things are going down in one direction and maybe things are okay, but they're not that great, but they'd really like it to be great, what it needs is a reset. And I've created this free audio mini course called A Marriage Reset, because all of my work over all of the years about what makes the difference between a great relationship or heals a relationship and turns it into a great relationship, there's really only one fundamental thing that is the difference and that makes all the difference between a great relationship and one that struggles or even ends. And I put it in, and what it comes down to is having this marriage reset and shifting the way you think and feel about your relationship, because all of the stuff about the words you say and what you do, they're just the result of how you feel and what you're thinking. When you think and feel the right things, and this is what this free course I've got for people shows you how to do. When you do that, you say the right things. You do the right things automatically, because wasn't that true of when you got together in your relationship? You weren't thinking, I need to learn 7 communication strategies. I need to remember to say I'm grateful. And you didn't think of that. You just did it because you felt good. You thought the right things without even knowing what you were thinking. But you were feeling so good, you automatically did the right things and you automatically said the right things. So it's so crucial to get back, and that's why I've called this free course, which is on my website. In fact, it's so crucial just to change your state, change the way you look at your marriage, and that's what I've created in this course, how to do that. And it's amazing everything else, you don't need to do 20 months or 20 years of counseling. You don't need to do any of that. You just need to get this shift right back to where you were, if you like, and knowing the right way to get it back to where you were. And everything works out. It's a lot simpler. We tend to overthink everything, particularly relationships. So if people go to my website, or there's an easy way to do it, and if people are listening and they're really interested, no matter where their relationship is, where their marriage is, they should have a look at doing this reset. Every relationship can benefit from it. So in fact, all they need to really do is, if they're on their phone, just pull it out and open your email and send an email to marriage@liamnaden.com, and you'll instantly get free access to this course. And maybe it's really what your marriage could do with is a marriage reset. So, and if people don't procrastinate, people say, well, after I've listened to this, I'll do it. Do it right now. That's one of the things about a great marriage and about a great person. You do it right now. You go, that's a good idea. I'll do it. So just open your phone, flick an email to marriage@liamnaden.com, and you're going to get this free mini course which shows you how to create a real powerful reset in your marriage.
Great.
We greatly appreciate you coming on, Liam. Just like the other show, we have a special question to ask as we end the show. So, Kafi, would you like to ask that question?
Yes, it's a tough question, Liam. So,
really,
put your thinking cap on.
Okay.
All right, you're sitting down, so we're good. All right. So the question is, if you could sing a duet with anyone other than your partner, who would you sing that duet with?
Can they be alive or dead?
Alive or dead?
No parameters.
That's a very interesting question. You're right. It's extremely difficult to answer. This is probably a bit of a strange answer, but I firmly believe, and I know in all my work with who we really are, because as well as marriage and relationship coaching, I do a lot of work on the brain and really helping people with any problems in their life by understanding who we are and how we process information, how we get the results we do in our life, because they're not really what we think. We get all these unexpected things that happen in our life. Like we meet somebody that we end up marrying and living and having children with for 27 years.
Right,
How did
right.
that happen?
Right.
It's not through all our thinking and figuring out and setting goals. There's something else at work. So I've spent a lot of time in research to understand what this thing is at work. And we have this other side of ourself. This is to answer the question. We have this other side of ourself that is, if you want to say, connected to God or infinite intelligence. It's a part of us that knows all of the answers about what we need, what we're supposed to have in our life, if we get out of our own way and stop sabotaging our own success, relationships, or any other area. You can call it the higher self or infinite intelligence. It's the most. I often talk to this other person, this other part of myself, and I get have the most amazing conversations. So I think I would like to sing a duet with that person.
Oh, okay.
That part of myself, my higher self.
Nice, nice. That's a very interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Because some of us don't want. I mean, I think I can sing a little bit. So if I had a higher self, I'm pretty sure that I'm I could sing opera or something like that. Like, so
total opposite of who you present yourself now.
I know, right? So no, but I
Well, you
appreciate
never
that.
know.
Yes.
So thank you, Liam, for coming on the show today.
Yes, thank you so much for being here with us. And
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a real pleasure to talk with you both. Thank you very much.
Sure, no problem. And of course, y'all, thank you very much for listening to the No Fruit Podcast. And continue to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And we will talk to y'all a little later.
This week's episode has come to an end. But the fun doesn't have to stop here. If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback, head over right now to Twitter and Facebook and like, share, and get involved. Join us next time.
Cool,
Great.
Liam. Thank you very much.